All right. Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are joining us today. I want to welcome you to Reach Talk. As usual, I am your host, Sam. I am here with my lovely co-host, Ebony White. Ebony, please introduce yourself. Say hello.
Hello, everyone. I am Ebony White, and I'm just super glad to be with you, whatever time it is, the day that we decide to meet up.
uh, and how you doing today, Ebony? I feel like I haven't seen you in a couple of weeks at this point on the show.
Right, I know. I'm really good. I'm really good.
So far, 2022 is shaping up to be okay, at least for us. We're still in these little Zoom spaces, not quite together as much as we'd like to be, but we're doing all right, I think. Ebony, mind going ahead and giving a little introduction about each, then we will get into our guests.
Awesome. So, for those of you, if this is your first time being with us, welcome. REACH stands for Racial Ethnic Approaches to Community Health, right here in the city of Buffalo. So, we have a host of projects that we're in, but we spend a lot of time focusing around community clinical linkages, tobacco cessation, breastfeeding and expecting moms, along with some other work that we're doing here, right here in the city of Buffalo. But today, okay, of course, how did I forget all of these ladies here? It's Women's Month. And of course, I am with some powerful women that are some movers and some shakers here. So we work in these respective spaces that I shared with you. So Sam will introduce our wonderful guest.
Yes, and I am really much looking forward to this conversation we're going to have with Kimberly Slew-Ngarambe and Danielle Balling. We are coming to you today with a little bit of background on the Buffalo Center for Health Equity. We're coming with you a little bit about the Mellowing Mind study. And for me specifically, it's very interesting. The Buffalo Center for Health Equity has been a delightful partner to work with in all of the things that we've been doing over the last year now. And they focus a lot on mental health, which I think is just incredibly important as we're coming, a little bit away, not, the pandemic isn't over, but we're focusing on what are the, long lasting effects, what are things happening in mental health is just at the top of everyone's mind, I guess. So with that, I want to go ahead and ask if Kim wouldn't mind coming on and introducing herself a little bit and her role at the Buffalo Center for Health Equity.
Sure, absolutely. Well, thank you, Sam. Thank you, Ebony. Thank you all at Reach Talk for inviting me to be a guest. I was telling Ebony earlier that I'm usually on the other end of the table with Ignite and Hope Radio and those that we bring on with Sam and Ebony. You guys have been a guest. So it's just like this is a little bit different. But nonetheless, I'm happy to be here. So my name is Kimberly Slew-Ngarambe, as Sam mentioned. A little bit about myself. I am a proud transplant here in Buffalo. I've been here for approximately 12 years now. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. Bedford-Stuyvesant, the neighborhood to be exactly. I am first generation American by my dad being Jamaican and my mom being from the Twin Island of Trinidad and Tobago. I went to primary school all the way up to high school, Brooklyn, New York. Then I went on to college at Georgia State University. I grew up in a charismatic, I would say, strict Christian home. So obviously when I got to college, it was a free-for-all for me. I was on a full scholarship there. And then I transferred to the University of Buffalo for getting too much of my equity in. I'll put it like that. Had a little bit too much fun. And so I transferred to the University of Buffalo, which I think was a pivotal moment in my life where, as you could see, I'm still here. I finished my bachelor's in history, then went on to do my master's in clinical psychology. And from there, I've worked in various different positions, mostly with a caseworker, mental health background, advocacy work. And I would say it's so weird talking about myself. So if there's anything in particular you would like for me to highlight or stress on, please. My rap sheet is pretty long. So I'll stop there.
Well, we appreciate the introduction, and trust me, that's what college is for. Don't worry about that. And then next we will have Danielle Balling come on and introduce herself a little bit.
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for having me. My name is Danielle, and I'm a community engagement coordinator for research at the University at Buffalo at School of Nursing. I was born and raised in Buffalo, so I'm a hometown girl. I graduated from UB, and I've worked at UB for almost 20 years, or 20 years, 10 years in different departments. I've been at the School of Nursing for just about a year now. And I just have a passion for getting people more involved in research across the spectrum, from asking the research question to helping create the research, materials, be a part of the research team, participate in research, and then be involved in the dissemination of research back into the community. I have a passion for that so that our research that is coming out of Buffalo is more representative of us as a diverse community. And I have a beautiful 2-year-old daughter named Margot.
Well, thank you for that. And I personally appreciate your love of research. I'm currently getting my master's degree, and I'm working on a literature review right now. And even just that, you forget about how much, well, maybe not you, but I forgot how much great detail and everything there is out there, and the stuff that people have done. So it's a really good thing to be a part of. So thank you for that. So I'm going to go ahead with our first question, and I think we'll start with Kim, if that's the case. What is the mission of the Buffalo Center for Health Equity?
Absolutely. The mission for the Buffalo Center for Health Equity, in simple, is to eliminate race, economic, and geographic-based health inequities in Western New York. And we aim to do that by changing social and economic conditions that cause illnesses and shorten lives among the sickest in the region. And so if I could elaborate a little bit on that, the Buffalo Center for Health Equity really represents a real opportunity for radical inclusivism. And our articulation of a radical vision is more combined with an incremental approach, pursuing a just community. With that mission, we also carry this out through our 5 platform foundational pillars, which is public policy, research, community engagement, advocacy and public government relations, and neighborhood development. And so we combine all of this together to really drive that mission to eliminate race, economic, and geographic-based health inequities.
Oh, I love that. I love the center. We've done a lot of good work together in 2021 since I started with my position. So I really appreciate you, and I appreciate all of our, Pastor Nicholas and Rita. So thank you for that insight into what the Buffalo Center for Health Equity is. But now that we know what it is, there might be people who are listening who would like to know more about what you do.
Okay, sure. So what I do particularly at the Buffalo Center for Health Equity is I am the Director of Operations and the Program Development and Communications Manager. I would say this position is pretty unique and for me, very fun because it's multifaceted. In this position, I lead the center in management and oversight work in alignment with the strategic plan to use those 5 pillars I mentioned earlier: research, policy development, community engagement, advocacy, and communication, and neighborhood development to eliminate, which is in our mission, the race-based health equities in Western New York. I've been here for a little over 10 months or going on 10 months. And so far, I have worked collaboratively with community members and organizations, as well as the public and faith-based sectors to advance this multi-level agenda. As I mentioned, it's a very robust position. Also, as you serve on SAM, the African American Health Equity Task Force, I work collaboratively with the task force as well. And Danielle Balling with the UB Community Health Equity Research Institute. So we have a lot of moving parts. And I would say that the Director of Operations, as the Buffalo Center for Health Equities continue to expand and grow its reach in our mission to highlight and eliminate race-based inequities and address the social determinants of health, I would say my primary role is to serve as a connector, a conduit, and to help the Buffalo Center for Health Equity convene these platforms and highlight these areas for those in the community. And last but not least, this is an important part, which I enjoy doing. I direct the preparation of grants and funding opportunities that support the center goals.
I would say that's a really fancy way of saying I do everything for the center.
Listen, right, exactly. That's what I was like. Everything, like, all of it. I touch everything.
You know that part in when you're reading a job description and then they tell you everything you have to do, and at the bottom it says, and any other task that your supervisor may ask you to do. That's that. So anything, our board, Miss Reader, Pastor George, Dr. Willie Underwood, Stan, it's got to get it done. So.
And you strike me as somebody who, at the end of the day, if you can help out by helping cleaning up the office or taking out the trash, that you absolutely would. You definitely strike me as that kind of person. So definitely a key player at the Buffalo Center for Health Equity.
Thank you, Sam.
Of course. So what we would like to do is hear a little bit more about what are the community health initiatives that we have going on. So what are the ways in which the Buffalo Center for Health Equity aims to achieve the goals that you had mentioned?
Okay. So with anything, when you have a goal, right, sometimes you may have a problem and you need to look at the solution. So definitely there is a problem here in Buffalo. And when you look at health inequities, and more primarily the social determinants of health, we know that the social determinants of health can influence health status and health equity in positive and negative ways. Some examples of social determinants of health, for those that are listening, like, what exactly is social determinants of health? Income and social protection is a social determinant of health. Education, unemployment and job security, working life conditions, food insecurity, early childhood development, structural conflict, and the list goes on. But to answer your question, Sam, and to dive a little bit deeper into some of the health initiatives that the center has been working on, I want to highlight one of the social determinants of health, food insecurity. And research has shown that the United States is one of the richest countries in the world. Yet on average, 1 in 8 Americans will go to bed hungry at night. In the state of New York, 1 in 6 children are affected by hunger. Food insecurity is the inconsistent access to nutritious food for a healthy life. Although poverty and food insecurity usually go hand in hand, families above the poverty line can still be food insecure. Insecure, there's no security around the food. So as we tackle to eliminate race-based health inequities and tackle the social determinants of health, we find partners, or sometimes partners will find us, so that we can address these issues. So a partner that we ended up finding and we built a really amazing connection with, and partnership, I would say, is the language that I would find most appropriate here, is with the Rite Aid Foundation, and more particularly the Rite Aid Healthy Futures. And so with that grant, we were able to secure $300,000 for the next 2 years. Yes, that's very exciting, to address food insecurity. And we're going to have 3 main goals with that. The first goal is going to be around the food pantry. Some people may be familiar with First Fruits Food Pantry and Food Bank over at Lincoln Memorial United Methodist Church. The second will be on education with a children's gardening program, which I'm really excited about. So listeners, please be on the lookout for that. It will be something for the specifically for the children to be engaged in, to learn about agriculture and horticulture, urban agriculture, and having access to nutritious foods. And then, most importantly, operating in that research component that we have here at the center, we'll be convening of collaborative efforts for food sovereignty solutions. So in the context of food sovereignty with this project and East Buffalo, along with the serious challenges, the Buffalo Center for Health Equity will put to the forefront a convening aim to make food systems more just and sustainable. So that's with the Rite Aid Foundation. And there's more to come with that. And if anyone wants to look up the Rite Aid Healthy Futures, or even what we have going on with them, and that $300,000 award, it's riteaidhealthyfutures.org. That's riteaidhealthyfutures.org. And should I go ahead and talk about the Mellow in Mind study now? I think that's more of Danielle's wheelhouse, but I'm a big advocate of research as well. And so we know that the Mellow in Mind study is a meaningful way to engage a community in research. We all have stress. We all have worries. Life happens to us all, right? I would say that. Definitely life happens to us all. If you're living, life is going to happen. And there's different ways that people cope with stress, different ways that people are coping with all that has happened, even with the COVID-19 pandemic, which has exacerbated a lot of underlying conditions that people have had, or existing conditions that people have had. And so the Mellow in Mind study, which I think the name is so befitting, just really to take some time to mellow that mind, is a way for the community and other research partners to meaningfully engage in research. And so that's where I would like to leave that part. And I know the expert in the room is going to be able to talk more about that. So.
Thank you. Kim she did it all, right? She moved us to the segue. She moved us through. So with all our viewers and listeners, I forgot to tell you, do you have a pen and pad to write down much of this? You might have to rewind and go back and play it again, because Kim provided so much information that is valuable to you. So Kim shared and just pivot us right to our next conversation, to our beautiful guest here, Danielle Balling. So Buffalo Equity Center has a great understanding and understands the importance of the mind. And they've partnered with University of Buffalo School of Nursing with the Mellowing Mind study. So I'm going to segue and give the floor to Danielle to kind of talk about the study and how people can actually participate in the study and all of those things. So Danielle, take it away.
Sure. Thanks so much for all of your guys' support in research, and particularly in this project. I agree. It's just so needed during these times. So the Mellowing Mind study is a totally virtual study, which is really exciting because it can keep people safe in their own homes as we move forward to not needing to be in our own homes. It kind of just lends itself to people's availability and kind of being able to fit it into a busy lifestyle, or anyone who's kind of homebound and doesn't leave as much. So it's totally virtual. It's a paid research study. It's going on right now at the UB School of Nursing, and it's looking at using mindfulness, which is really just being in the present moment, taking note of sensations throughout the body. Taking those moments to breathe is what mindfulness really is, but you have to practice it. You have to learn how to do it. So we're looking at mindfulness as a way to reduce stress and worry and other concerns related to the COVID-19 pandemic in local communities that have been heavily impacted by the pandemic. The participation involves an 8 to 9 week mindfulness-based stress reduction program, which again is just learning about mindfulness using your smartphone or Zoom technology. So we're looking, the participants will also be completing questionnaires and interviews during the 9-week program and at follow-up points afterwards. Since it is a clinical trial, we have a control group. So that group that kind of doesn't do anything, they do things as usual. So this third group of participants won't practice any mindfulness during the study, but they will get access to the app once their participation is over, because we think that mindfulness is so helpful. So we want to make sure that everyone gets access to it. People who may be eligible will be over 18, living in the city of Buffalo, and experiencing some stress and worry during these times. We believe that mindfulness can be effective for stress reduction. And the goal of this study is to determine which method of delivery works the best for the people of Buffalo. So learning about mindfulness over Zoom with a teacher in that kind of setting, or through a smartphone app that is more self-guided. Once we know which is preferred, we can look to expanding the availability of that preferred method more broadly in Buffalo to help as many people as possible.
Thank you, Danielle. So I have a question. So you touched a little bit on the impact and the stressors. So when, we all have stress, right? And stress comes up in different ways. Life, our personal lives, our work, our health, our environment. So when we start talking about social determinants of health, you see how they go hand in hand in creating and exasperating our everyday stresses that other people in regions and different locations and zip codes may not have. How has just really COVID, how has it impacted the study in terms of enrollment and just kind of getting out and convening and finding individuals to be a part of the study?
So that's a really interesting question. And just kind of to touch on, COVID is actually why this study was created. It was created in direct response to the COVID pandemic. It's funded through PCORI, which just stands for Patient-Centered Outcomes Research Institute. There was a recognition back in 2020 that mental health care in its traditional sense would be difficult to deliver during a pandemic. So there was a request to researchers to test new ways to provide services while keeping people safe. To answer your question about kind of getting out and engaging with people, we kind of just evolved, like everyone's just kind of making it work and making it happen. Instead of having events in person, we were having events over Zoom and using these chat functions to connect with someone else at another community organization that you thought their clientele might be really interested in a project like this and benefit from it. When the weather is warm, we would get out in our masks and take all of our materials and go to any event that was going on outside, so that we could have safe conversations with everybody, using more social media, and just really kind of working with our stakeholders and with the community to kind of just be really creative in how to touch everybody. How do we keep everybody in the loop about what research is going on and how to get involved in this project in particular. And then this one, I love it because they can stay safe in their homes. Even as the world is opening up a little bit, not everyone's comfortable with that, and that's okay. So, everyone can kind of stay with what they're doing, or now if they're on the go, if they're traveling, it's a virtual study. So you can, use your app while you're in Florida or Texas. You can join the Zoom group while you're visiting your grandma. So it's a really exciting time. I think that we have been able to pivot and just be creative with research recruitment and research participation.
You heard that. So listen, she provided, even though you had some challenges, you were able to develop some other ways to still meet the need of our community. So to our viewers, our listeners, listen, how does one come up with a solution if we don't participate? So be a part of research. And she shared, you'll also see ways that you can contact the Mellowing Minds organization to be a part of the study. So I'm just excited about just us being a part and learning from one another and how to address our mind. Often we hear people kind of deal with our physical, but exclude our head. What's happening above the neck, but understand what's happening above the neck controls everything else. So it is not a separate, distinct, it's over there in the corner. We have to take care of our minds. We have to deal with, even with COVID, before COVID showed up, we still were dealing with social determinants of health. We still were dealing with comorbidities and pre-existing conditions and all of these other areas that impacted us immensely. And then COVID landed, right? So we're still trying to figure it out, helping people learn tools to help themselves and also help others. So we talked about what you're doing distinctly, but we're doing something phenomenal together, right? So Kim, I'm going to open it up for you to share about the You Are Not Alone series of 4-part conversations that's currently happening. We actually had our first one. If you missed last week, don't miss the next 3 weeks. It will be great knowledge for you to gain for yourself and also others. So Kim, share with us, our listeners and our viewers, what else is happening.
Absolutely. So some of you may have seen, if you're following us on Facebook at Buffalo Center for Health Equity, that's our Facebook name, we have a 4-part series conversation that is currently going on. And the first conversation happened yesterday, Thursday the 10th, where we had the wonderful Kelly Marie Wolford, the new director for health equity over at the Department of Health. And the reason why this conversation came about, it's definitely not a new brainchild, but it is the brainchild of our chair, Pastor George F. Nicholas. In the last month of February, we have heard of 3 deaths by suicide, and although those deaths, that's a new tongue twister there. Although those deaths were of celebrities and they were just in a week of each other, the Buffalo Center for Health Equity definitely felt the need to respond to this and to create a public space to talk about it, in addition to providing some direction. We see that there has been a 47% increase in suicide, just even in the African American community. And we know that the COVID-19 pandemic and the resulting economic recession, it has negatively affected many people's mental health and created new barriers, on top of the already existing barriers from people suffering from mental health. And a lot of concern has been drawn around suicidal ideation. So again, we came together. We meet every Friday. We meet every Friday, our planning committee, Suicide Amongst Our People, and we came up with this 4-part series. You can find the flyer on our website. You can find it on our Facebook page. It is called You Are Not Alone, and it means exactly that. You are not alone. So yesterday we had mental health stigma and suicide facilitated by Kelly Marie Wilford. Next Thursday on March 17th, we'll have Identifying Harmful Behaviors by Erin M. Moss. Then Where Do I Get Help? None other by the lovely Miss Ebony White here today. She'll be facilitating that segment and really pinpointing some key resources in if you find yourself in trouble or you find someone else in trouble, a family, a friend, a loved one, that you can be able to provide some resources not only for yourself, but for them. And last but not least, we will end that 4-part series conversation with faith, suicide, and mental health with Pastor George F. Nicholas and a couple other members from clergy and faith-based organizations. So please go over to the Buffalo Center for Health Equity Facebook page, check out the flyer, and register.
Thank you, Kim. Register. You got it. So go to those pages. But also what we're also doing is we are helping people actually do a mindfulness activity to close out. We know when we start talking about suicide and mental health, that's a heavy topic. Even for those who are helpers in that space, it's heavy. And you want to create, and the title of You Are Not Alone is basically, it shares the sentiment that sometimes depression, anxiety, and hopelessness makes one feel like I'm the only one in the world feeling this way. You're not. You're not the only one that has ever felt this intense sadness or grief, that there are people around available that want and desire to support you and help you. So this is critical. Even if you don't operate in this space, I think it's imperative for us as we're called the city of good neighbors, right? Buffalo is referred to the city of good neighbors, that you equip yourself to help someone, and that someone can see something happening in you, and that you take on the responsibility and feeling like we're responsible for one another, right? That so we overall have a better community and deal with many of the trying things that happen. So this is a phenomenal conversation that is happening, and it must happen. So even though what happened in February highlighted, some people with stardom and the connectivity, but think about all those. No one knows their names. They didn't make it to the headlines. We don't want them to be forgotten. We don't want their families to be forgotten that felt that they needed support and maybe wish that someone had created a space. And we've created that space for us to talk about it, equip ourselves to support each other. Listen, I told you it was Women's Month. And I have a group of great women that are in this space helping. I want to give Danielle the opportunity to share any upcoming events that may be coming up, and just again to recite, be a part of the research with the university. Often I hear so I spend a lot of time community facing. I'm not involved. You can be involved. You can be involved with the solution. We often can be involved with the complaints, but we can also be a part of the solution. So Danielle, you got a few seconds, share that info and get it to our listeners.
Sure. So, and apologies for the phone call. That was our study line lighting up because everyone is listening to you girls this morning. So thank you. So we're going to be out and about in the community this month. Independent Health Foundation, good for the neighborhood. I was just at the West Side Community Services last night. Ebony's going to be over at Mount Olive on Saturday. Hey. And then Westminster Charter School, Eastside Good for the Neighborhood, goes on March 30th. It's a Wednesday. So come out, check us out. We'd love to meet you guys and tell you more about the project. Like Ebony said, we're partnering with the You Are Not Alone series. One of our amazing study interventionists, Tamika Jones, yogameblack.com. She is doing our closing mindfulness meditations for those series. So we can't wait to see you there either. And if you have any questions, just give us a call at 716-829-2037 or email us at mellowingmind.com or mellowingmind@buffalo.edu.
Awesome. The time is winding up. Sam, any closing remarks?
I'm just so thankful to have folks like Danielle and Kim on our show today. I'm so passionate about mental health and all the different ways in which it affects us. The mind-body connection is so real. And when we talk about, health equity, the way that our bodies react, they react a lot to stress and what's going on in our minds. So there's such a connection. We can't focus on what's above and below the neck as if they're two different things. So thank you so much for coming on and for doing the work that you both do. I personally appreciate it.
Awesome. Thank you. And to our viewers, we appreciate you coming and being with us, bringing your notepad and your pen and coming with an open mind, ready to learn new information about what's happening right here in the city of Buffalo. And as always, do it for yourself, do it for your family, and do it for your community. We thank you here at Reach Talk. Until next time, have a great one.
Reach Buffalo, promoting a healthy community. Reach, racial and ethnic approaches to community health locally in Buffalo to reduce racial and ethnic health disparities and rates of chronic disease. We want to make a change by reducing exposure to tobacco in housing and work areas, by increasing access to nutritious foods, by creating a breastfeeding community, by increasing referrals to primary care and community health providers, and by implementing community work groups. Reach Buffalo will concentrate on Ferry Street itself, as well as a community that resides within 4 blocks to the north and south of the corridor in 5 zip code areas: 14208, 14209, 14211, 14213, and 14215 in Buffalo, New York, with disparities in rates of chronic disease. Get involved. Ferry area residents will have an opportunity to have a platform to voice their opinions, organize, and make decisions in these efforts. For more information, you can contact Ebony M. White, Community Outreach Coordinator, at 716-268-2954.